I've clicked onto the Global Tropical Overview for August the 11th, 2023. As is always the case in these videos, the thoughts expressed are mine alone, and when making decisions ahead of any tropical cyclones, look towards your local weather office, local emergency management, and local tropical cyclone warning center. We've got we've got two systems that we're going to be talking about today. Three would have been the case if we were still talking about Canoon, speaking of which, is moving over North Korea now as a remnant system. So there's my three systems for the day. But we're going to be talking about primarily Typhoon Lan here and Hurricane Dora as they both traverse the Pacific. But we're first going to talk about land as this system is impacting land. This is the Ogasawara island chain. I apologize if I butchered that name. But you can see they're very close. The island chain is here, very close to this western eye wall. In fact, some of these islands may be in that western eye wall, and this system has intensified pretty significantly over the past day. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center currently estimates the system to have winds of about 100 knots. That's about 115 miles per hour, and this might even be stronger than that at this time based on what I'm seeing on satellite. Now, the system has been struggling a little bit today as the sun rises over the region. You can see the western side was a bit thin earlier, but in recent frames it has become more thick overall. This has been a struggle of the system for about a day, and it might be attributed to this dry air northwest of the storm. If there was strong shearing over the system, this dry air would be much more of an issue, but there's not really strong shear. In fact, there's pretty divergent flow aloft. We've got this upper level low continuing to track northwest. This is increasing poleward outflow. It might be a little bit hard to see, but we've got some upper level cirrus expanding equatorward away from the system. So this is a pretty low shear and highly divergent environment and looks pretty favorable. And alongside that, we've got very warm seasonal temperatures relative to normal. In fact, some of the anomalies off of eastern Japan are off the charts in some cases. Now, here's the GFS 500 millibar flow. I'm going to show you three models, the GFS, European, and Canadian model for track at 5 days here. Now, here's the GFS position here, and note some of the features surrounding it. We've got this upper low here associated with an upper level trough over and east of China and over portions of South Korea. This system is far enough west on this model, I think, and also this low is strong enough as well compared to other models, that this system might start to feel an interaction between these two. It's sort of like when two tropical cyclones get close to each other, they will start to revolve around each other. So what may happen is this system may be tracking northwest and may start to feel more of a northwestward jog from this low here and might come in a further bit down the coast than other models have been depicting. Here's a European model, and you can see that this low overall west of the storm is a little bit weaker, and also Lan is also a little bit further up the coast, a little bit further away from it. So that interaction is not nearly as pronounced and doesn't look like it really occurs. And really it just keeps this northwestward motion here from this upper ridge north of the storm. The Canadian is fairly similar. It is a little bit further up the coastline. And this between the European and Canadian seems to be just more the general margin of error that we typically have at day 5, but you can see it has a general low here near South Korea and Japan, and also this ridge up north, and the system would continue to track through Japan into the Sea of Japan like the other models depict. And remember, this is a little bit different than the Canadian had when I made my last video. The Canadian did have the system coming up towards the coastline, stalling here, and then moving far south. But now that solution seems pretty unlikely, and we are now worried about a potential significant storm here for Japan. Now, here is the forecast cone from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. You can see they're forecasting a peak intensity of about 115 knots, about 130 miles per hour. That will be a Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. And there is some slight weakening here as the system comes towards the coastline. And this might be due to slow movement, as there is not much oceanic heat content here, meaning that the water is warm only at a very... I'm trying to describe this in a way that I can understand, but the water warmth does not go far down in depth from the surface. It is pretty warm at the surface, but that warmth does not go too far with depth. That's what I'm trying to explain here. So the system with slow movement, especially if it's something like it is right now, might start to feel upwelling with the waters there. Alongside that, there might be some increased shear, especially as it gets right towards the coastline, as there will be Again, that upper level trough that might bring some southwesterly flow impinging upon the storm, though there is some uncertainty on that. Models like the GFS show maybe a little bit more favorable of an interaction for the storm that may not shear it as much, but the European and Canadian might show an impact that might be more detrimental to the storm overall. So we'll have to see exactly how that pans out, but you can see this is the 14th to 15th, 4 to 5 days out, and the system is only just reaching the coastline of Japan. So, unfortunately, slow movement was forecast to continue. And for those in the central Japan coastline, my recommendation is to listen to your local emergency management and listen to the Japan Meteorological Agency, as they're going to have the best information, and have your typhoon preparedness kit ready as the system approaches the coastline. All right, so that's Typhoon Lan. Now we're going to be talking about Hurricane Dora, which is very quickly traversing the Central Pacific. And I'll quickly refresh this so we can get the latest imagery. And I'll put the latitude and longitude here just for reference. This is the international date line here at about 180 degrees. And you can see just where the storm is. It's about approaching the 175-degree west longitude line. And this system is moving pretty fast. The trade winds here are pretty fast as well. And overall, the environment looks pretty favorable for the system, at least to stay a hurricane throughout the passage through the date line. At that point, when it comes into the Western Pacific, it will be called Typhoon Dora. Now, here is a close-up imagery. I would get it from Tropical Tidbits, but the National Hurricane Center is having some issues with their computer systems today. So the ATCS system is down for a bit from that. But you can see on this floater, the system is looking a little bit better than it did last night. Last night, it had what appeared to be some shear impacting it from the northern side, and the eye had actually really degraded a lot last night from that shear. Now the system is improving. We're seeing some signs that the eye is trying to pop out again, and we're also seeing some deep convection trying to wrap around this core. And overall, the pattern looks fairly favorable. This is a GFS 200 millibar flow, and you can see here's this tut that's going to shear it once it gets into the Western Pacific. But you can see right now we have some enhanced winds here on the eastern side of this tut, and this system is not close enough to this tut to where it will be shearing it. And you can see some of this divergent flow aloft heading right into this enhanced flow. This may help some of the poleward outflow and might give Dora one last opportunity to intensify a little bit before it's all over. As the system enters the West Pacific, you can see that there, and even some of the stronger flow of this jet here. But as the system gets past the date line, the flow is forecast to be more shearing. You can see in the upper levels we have more westerly flow overall, and in the low levels with the trade winds, the flow is much more easterly. That's a very significant shearing, and that will likely be detrimental to Dora. And most models do not have the system surviving much into the Western Pacific. A lot of models have this weakening to an open trough and then eventually getting absorbed by a larger system overall. And that is exactly what the Central Pacific Hurricane Center forecasts here. You can see on their latest advisory, having the system cross the date line tomorrow morning as a typhoon, or hurricane in this case would be a typhoon at this point. And that quick weakening taking shape, and by day 5, the early part of the week, you can see not a tropical cyclone anymore on the forecast. But a very, very neat storm to look at as it's traversed the entire eastern and central Pacific and is making its way to the western Pacific, which I believe is the first time a storm has done this successfully since 2018. I'd have to look exactly what storm did that. One comes to mind was Hector of 2018, but there might have been one after that. But certainly an amazing storm, and unfortunately, it's not fully impact free. We did have the storm as it passed south of Hawaii. It helped alongside the subtropical ridge up north of Hawaii. It helped strengthen a low-level jet, which gave some strong winds to the Hawaiian Islands, which unfortunately led to a devastating wildfire event. I hope everyone's safe there, as I saw some images out of there, and it was very devastating of what happened there. So it just goes to show, even if a system is far south of you, doesn't mean that you're still free from impacts overall. And Dora will likely go down in history not only for its track, but also helping to fuel some of those wildfires that caused devastation in Hawaii. That's all that I've got for today in the tropics. There are 3 other systems we're watching in the Eastern Pacific that may develop over the next 7 days, but those are no threats to land at this time, and we're going to be talking about those in the future if I have to. But that's it for now. Stay safe in Japan and the islands being affected by land right now, and thanks for watching.